All right, first things first, I'm counting 3 Americans killed since last we chatted. This is our way of playing taps. Of course, our president would probably say that these men were not heroes because, after all, they were killed. He celebrates those heroes who are still alive. I mean, he said something similar regarding John McCain, the captured war hero. So I guess it'd be the same. Bring it up. These 3 Americans were killed in Nigeria, fighting terrorism. I don't doubt Boko Haram, ISIS, whatever. Whichever, however, we count them because they died in the so-called war on terror. I think that's what Bush called it. All right, folks. Tragically, no mention of these individuals will probably happen on Capitol Hill. All 3 Green Beret. Which brings me to another installment into the hidden history of the African American fighting man. I've shared with you the story regarding African Americans during the Revolutionary War. What I didn't tell you is that there was a problem in the 13 colonies with Caucasian recruits, resisting. Literally, not only resisting, but in some cases deserting at a clip, particularly going up against the British. You see, at the time, George Washington and the Continental Congress was not enlisting the support of free men of color or African Americans enslaved. Well, that didn't last long. It was a matter of months that George Washington and others saw the error of that. Certainly did. Not only that, they came up with actually acts like Connecticut passed an act that allowed for the exemption of any 2 men who could provide a substitute, no matter what color. Of course, they had to come back and further clarify with another act that really spelled it out. It allowed those who were considered masters to provide their enslaved substitutes for themselves or for their children. Of course, there was a caveat for those enslaved, and that was there was a guarantee of freedom. You may have seen the Mel Gibson's movie, The Patriot. Well, some of that, at least that part, was true. But it's very significant here, folks. Possibly 5,000 of the 5 to 8,000 of the 30,000 Patriot troops were, in fact, African American. 1/4 of the Navy were African American. At the beginning of the Revolutionary War, ladies and gentlemen, 1/4 of the United States Navy as it existed were, in fact, Negroes. Because after all, Negroes were quite successful in seamanship. The Brits used them all the time. Maybe it had something to do with the fact that many of them had traveled across the Atlantic in chains and developed some sea legs, should I say. So, much of that was left out of your history book. You didn't see it in any great pictures. You certainly didn't read about it. But had not African Americans, both free men of color and those enslaved, not participated in the Revolutionary War, ladies and gentlemen, we still could be subject to the crown. But keeping in mind that the first person to die, that shot that was heard around the world that started the Revolutionary War for independence, that first shot, the musket ended up into the chest of a formerly enslaved American named Crispus Attucks, the first to die in this country for independence. Notice I didn't say freedom. Was a man of Negro descent. So there you have it. But what you didn't know was that that it was particularly important to get those enslaved to fight because the colonists were deserting at a clip. I mean, every state. Rhode Island was the first state to pass a Slave Enlistment Act. And in 1778, the first Rhode Island Regiment was formed And over the next 5 years, 250 former enslaved Americans and freedmen served in those ranks. It was the only African American unit at the Siege of Yorktown. They were present on every step of the way. Yeah, there's a series out called something about a traitor or something like that. Have you seen this? I've not seen it. Rather interesting. All right, folks, let's get to it. Let me tell you what's going to happen. And I'm not looking through a crystal ball. You may have heard about the slide stock or the bump stock device modification that's placed on so-called assault weapons. Well, right now they're flying off the shelves at a clip. Everyone who has an AK or AR-15 or any other kind of a assault weapon, they got some Rugers out there and so forth, buying one. They're flying off the shelves. This is a device that makes your semi-automatic into basically an automatic. I mean, obviously, it's not as apt as an automatic AK or Israeli machine gun. I mean, those are designed to be automatic. But this conversion is right now the #1 item to purchase. And if you're in law enforcement, you get ready for this. You get ready for this. And it's very sad, ladies and gentlemen, that you have individuals out there who are so afraid to go up against the gun lobby that you won't do anything that could help in your own safety. Now, you can't have it both ways, America. And particularly those individuals who condemn Black Lives Matter, and those individuals who feel that it's a figment of my imagination that African Americans are being killed, unarmed African Americans are being killed by law enforcement at a clip. It's a figment of my imagination. Or it's easily provable. FBI has proved it on many occasions. You can't have it both ways. Now, on the one hand, there are those who say, oh yeah, trust law enforcement, which I do. On the other hand, the gun lobby is saying, don't trust law enforcement. You can't have it both ways. Really. You can't have this concept of, oh yeah, well, he's, law enforcement's going to do the right thing as it applies to Negroes, and then somehow or another feel that they're going to come and take your guns. You see the difference here, Ro? And you get this mostly from the same folks. On the one hand, they will say to a person who's protesting in St. Louis, Ferguson, or wherever, look, you got to trust the discretion of law enforcement. They thought he had a gun, right? Oh yeah, well, you trust him. But on the other hand, this whole thing is about, well, I don't want the government telling me I can't have a gun. I don't trust them. Well, who do you think they're not trusting? They're not trusting law enforcement. And it's so profoundly ridiculous for me as a gun owner to hear that kind of the arguments like that. I have the capability of judging the people who are involved in whatever altercation, law enforcement or otherwise. I don't vilify the in total. But I do, however, I don't ignore the fact that there is a total number of individuals who somehow or another feel that by not having their firearm, they're vulnerable. Well, if you're vulnerable to law enforcement and feel that they're going to treat you without consideration of your rights, then what do you think I would feel as an African American? Oh, well, you should trust them, is what they're saying. Oh, well, you should just go along. Why can't you just obey the law? You see the division? You see the double standard? You see the downright, in my view, bigotry? That's what it is. It's also something else, though. I think that most of us good, decent, law-abiding gun owners, we got common sense. Most of us are. And we understand that it just doesn't take 42 weapons. I mean, some people are collectors. It's not unusual. I know that some of you will probably go, what did he do with 45 weapons? That's not unusual. I mean, you can get at least, you probably can get about 35, well, depending on whether they're long guns or whether they're long guns or whether they're pistols. 45 weapons is not that many. I know you might think it's not that many. I know for a person who doesn't own one, it is a lot. I got you. How many guns do you need, Rep? Well, many as I think I need. I mean, believe it or not, there are gun enthusiasts who enjoy just simply going to the firing range and squeezing off a few. I mean, if you ever shoot a 50 caliber, you know, I mean, there is some fascination. And some you might not enjoy it, may not even like hearing the pop with or without your earplugs. I like when I go to firing range. I know it's my doctor said it's not good, but I don't like using earplugs. I want to get accustomed to it. I mean, I don't. If you fire a weapon all the time, then I could see that. But with me, you know, my weapon, if I should happen to fire, will be for the sake of defense. And so I want to get accustomed to what it sounds like to hear that. Not only my hearing it, but hearing others. You know, because at that point you're in an altercation. At that point you're in war. So I don't. And if I was hunting. And if I was just target practice role, it'd be a different story. If I was in some kind of competition, then I'd want to have, you know, earplugs or a suppressor, silencer, as you would call it. But for me, no, I want to hear the pop. You know, and when it gets to the point whereby it's unbearable, I pack up my stuff, I go home. You know, but just the firing of the weapon can become disoriented. You got me. A lot of people, you're just not accustomed to it. That's why I knew that was a modification and was not an automatic weapon. You know, and that's also why I knew that he had no military experience, because he didn't do short bursts. He had very little control. Well, he had a stand there, so it was a little bit more than necessary. But when firing an automatic weapon like that, it has a tendency to, you know, to pull up, actually. And it was a serious force, and of course it emits a lot of heat and smoke. But I found out that the officers are saying that he had a flash suppressor as well. So to keep, you know, to camouflage the muzzle fire. This guy came ready, bro. However, with that said, ladies and gentlemen, I said I handle those who think he was crazy. What is it with this crazy white boy designation here? I mean, do you have my list over there? I don't have it. I was asking for it earlier. I mean, when I go back, and by the way, white boys in quotes. When you go back and look at this, there's always this rush to go in and say, oh, yeah, he's crazy. You know, yeah, he must have been on something, Xanax or this and that. Now, law enforcement, I just heard, said that there was no physical and or mental condition that would have resulted in this guy being impaired. And you hear these things floating out here suggesting that he was on some kind of antidepressants. Guy was a loser. He's a loser like every other terrorist. Blame the rest of the world for whatever it is that ails him. Typically it's because he didn't impress his girlfriend, and I got it right here. He didn't impress his girlfriend. You know, look, I'm going to tell you, it was a smile that launched 1,000 Greek ships in the Battle of Troy. That Helen of Troy put it on him, bro. And, you know, that woman thing will make you do things. I'm just telling you. That's what it always boils down to. There are some men who measure their bravado by whether whether women submit to them. I think we have a president that's like that, actually, but I'll explain later. So when I look at this and I start evaluating, I go, well, so now they want to say this guy, simply because of his complexion, was crazy. Guy had a whole lot more money than the other losers who were on the shooting rampage. But he had the other things in common. He wasn't a real looker, bro. You know, the kind of guy that couldn't dance, couldn't crack a joke, didn't have friends. You know, the kind of guy that would say things just kind of out of joint. Yeah, and there are jokes about something crazy like pulling the wings off of flies. You kind of look at a guy like, who would catch a fly? You know what I mean? You know, I mean, and look, I'm reading his history from mainly based on the people who knew him. He was just kind of quirky. He, don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with being a loner, nothing wrong with being quiet. Some people would call that cool. But he wasn't cool, bro. He was the kind of guy that would walk through the hallway with his shirt tail hanging out of his fly, didn't comb his hair, big old broccoli in his eye, you know, but really when he did talk, he just kind of stare at you on the side and just kind of and say little things that you mumbled in. Smart. Yeah, smart guy. You know, he was just kind of unassuming. You know, but a card counter, really good one. He really does fit the description of every one of these, what I call terrorists, and they are. Kaczynski, the Unabomber, the same guy, but yet he's, you know, crazy. They're crazy. Eric Rudolph, remember him? He was that rural country kind of crazy guy. Now he had to be crazy. He was a loner. Every one of these guys were shunned by a girl. You know, you always hear, what was it, Canterbury Tales. I mean, it was a Tartuffe who says, hell has no fury like a woman scorned, or something like that. Hell has no fury like a woman scorned. Now, let me just tell you, you scorn one of these guys, I don't know whether it's beyond hell. I mean, a guy who that has his mind set on, you know, impressing his lady to the point of his own death. Love you so much, I'll die for you. You'll see, you did it. We had several. What was it? The Facebook murder, shooting people, shot the poor guy. What was it? 70-year-old man, point blank. Absolutely, same loser, same kind of loser. Just okay, yeah, I'm gonna show you. I'm gonna go out here and kill a guy. This guy too fits that bill, and yes, he is a terrorist. There was social change that he sought to come up with. You know what it was? Getting rid of everyone out there who would laugh at him, or everyone out there who he felt were beneath him, or everyone out there who he feels would make his girlfriend suffer. That's right. So there was a Starbucks that the couple, Mary Lou Danley, and he used to visit. As it turns out, it seems as though Mary Lou had a husband when they met. She was a hostess, looker too. And she had a husband and obviously fell for the money. So some people think, no really, some men especially think that, you know, all you got to do is show the money and you'll get the lady. I don't doubt our president feels that way. And there's some women who will fall for it. You know, they'll go for the money. It doesn't matter. You don't have to be a looker. All you got to do is be able to buy a bigger diamond, a better car. Look, I'm not knocking it. I'm just describing it. Whatever you like, you like. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to judge you. Gold digger. Look, the world needs all kinds, bro. Why you give me this sour look? I'm not going to complain about how someone makes a living. I mean, glad somebody took that fool. I mean, I'm just going to tell you, you know, there's some men. I'm just telling you, there's some men who need to have a woman, bro, just to sedate them. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, there are some gorillas out here. There are some men out here who are just, I'm going to tell you, thank God for prostitutes, because let me just tell you. So Danley was married, and along comes the Las Vegas terrorist, and they hook up. She was living in an apartment that he had. You can get a divorce very quickly out there. However, they had a relationship going on for about 5 years there. So according to this report, where is this? Washington Post, at the coffee shop they used to frequent there in Mesquite, Nevada, the supervisor said that there were times when the Las Vegas terrorist would put down and berate his woman, Mary Lou, right there in public. Did it at the Starbucks. It happened a lot, says Esperanza, the supervisor there. He would verbally abuse her when Danley asked to use his casino card to buy food or other things inside the casino. he would glare down at her and say with a mean attitude, "You don't need my casino card for this. I'm paying for your drink, just like I'm paying for you." What a tacky thing to say. You know, why would you say something like that? No class whatsoever. The worst thing you can do is talk mean to a whore. What? I'm just being candid. You know, men who have class don't do that. If anything, I treat her like a queen. Really. Here she is demeaning herself for you. You know, let me just tell you, ladies, you need to run very fast from a man who would do something like that. Because what he's telling you is that he's brutal. What he's telling you is that not only is he brutal, he's ungrateful, and he is not comfortable in his own skin. Typically, you'll find a guy like that has his own sexual shortcomings. And it's like he's blaming you for it. He's blaming you for it, and this won't go well for you. Run very fast. So why would he do something like that, even if that were the case? Then she would say softly, says Esperanza, "Okay." And then she'd step back behind him. He was so rude to her in front of us. I mean, now of course, then there's some other things here. Some of the other things he's going through. You know, here's a guy who feels, well, you know, because he's got the money, it's the golden rule. You got to go, you make the rules, and there you have it. Found out he was forwarding money. I still didn't get my list there. I still don't have that. You know, as I look through his entire list here, the information about him, going way back on him, even with him and his family, his brother and his mother, he's a pretty antisocial guy. Smart guy, former accountant, a reader, a counter, humble, not a very brawny guy. No, he wasn't. You know, it's just one of those kids who just won't go out and play with all the other kids. And look, folks, I know that you like what you like. But little boys need to have those times when they go to the dirt pile. And I know, Mom, there are some moms who don't get this now, and something's wrong with y'all, too. I'm going to tell you something. You need to tell your boy, go outside. Tell him, you go somewhere, get out of here. Get from up under me. You ever heard that, Ro? Get from up. Will you please get from up under me? Go out there and fall in some doo-doo or something? What? You never heard that. You went out and played with that cow, though, didn't you? Bull. What I'm saying is, a little boy has to get dirty. He has to go out and compete. He's got to test himself with his friends. And it may not be the toughest kid on the block, but he needs to get with that other little sissy kid. And he's just got to, test his ability to joust. See who's king of the sandbox, that kind of stuff. And look, not every kid is a wrestler. I don't mean that. But I mean, sometimes it's just a matter of testing yourself to see whether you can climb the ladder on the sliding board. Or jump off of the seesaw before the other guy. You know what I mean? Climb a tree. Wade across a ditch. There's something to be said for that. Little boys, what's wrong with you? You need to let little boys be little boys. I think he was that kind of boy. As I'm looking through this description here, he was a semi-mama's boy, actually. Because Daddy was a bank robber. He didn't see Dad too much. And Mama was very, very protective of all of her sons, but very protective of him. He was the kind of son who just, didn't want to be a bother, didn't get in trouble, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that, you've got to ask, well, why don't you do something? All right, so simple question, folks. Was he crazy? Simple as that. Was he crazy? Is this guy, law enforcement has said, well, they have seen nothing to indicate that. And then there's this. He had made reservations to go to Chicago for the Lollapalooza concert. Another country concert. It's not? Is it a mixed concert? Yeah, you got a lot of country there now. A lot of Palooza? It's in Grant Park, isn't it? Isn't it the one in Grant Park? Give me the lineup. Yeah, I've seen the lineup. You go look at the lineup. Take a look at the lineup. Now, I have an angle here, folks. My angle is this. It's very simple. I really think this guy had, he liked a girlfriend who was Filipino/Negro. Look at that nose. It's a dead giveaway. And I don't doubt that didn't go over very well with many of his friends there. Of course, she was a looker, there's no doubt. Of course, in Las Vegas, it's not unusual to have ethnically vague individuals. However, in the money quarters, you with other gamblers, and you want to have a trophy wife, blue-eyed, bubbling, blonde, busty. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. I don't doubt that he got ragged by a few people, and a few people they wouldn't let him into the deer camp, even though he had all the guns. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't doubt that some of those individuals even insulted them, and I don't doubt that this is the kind of guy that would go back and look at the people she was with and get jealous. Ladies, a man's secret. You ready for this? And you need to know this. I guess it's a man's secret, but it's a woman reality. If the person you're dealing with, you're a man, is far more interested in who you were with and down to the minor details, trust me on this. There is absolutely positively nothing you can tell him about any man you were with that he's going to like. Don't bother. In his mind, he needs to know that you are the purest of the pure, even if it means you got to lie. Because he's asking you questions deep down inside he really doesn't want to know. But if he insists and continue to find out information that he knows is going to cause him some kind of heartburn, and basically that he's going to compare himself with who you were with. And the anger that he will show toward you thereafter will be mostly toward the people you were with. He'll never get over it. He can't erase that. The way to handle that is say, doesn't matter now, I'm with you. A man has a tendency to ask questions that he really, what I mean is men who are not experienced, inexperienced men have a tendency to compare themselves with others. And, they want to know that they've got the purest of the pure, So when they start inquiring, then going down that litany of questions, they'll come back to it over and over again. Trust me on this. Run very, very fast. Because what he's asking, what he's doing is evaluating himself based upon who you have dealt with in the past. He's comparing and deciding whether or not you're worthy to be with him in the first place. And more than anything else, if he really, really is obsessed with you, he will seek to erase all of that, and he can't do that. He's powerless to do that, so therefore he takes it out on you. When deep down inside the person that he is probably taking it out on is the man who had you. Just a little man's secret here. There's no curing that. There are times when as lovers, you ask questions that you don't want to know the answer to. And the person who you're asking, the person that you care for, needs to have the sense enough to know, hey, you don't want to know. And I'm not going to tell you. That was before you. Let sleeping dogs lie. What is it you got to hide? Why can't you tell me? I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. Bull. That's bull. Don't believe it. And look, by the way, I think it goes both ways. I think if a woman's more obsessed with your past than she is with her future with you, then trust me on this. Run very fast. Because what they're trying to do is measure themselves. There's some inadequacies there. There's insecurities there. And their fascination is not with you sitting in front of them. Their fascination is whether you are the purest of the pure, that freshly driven snow individual that they want you to be. They want a Snow White. I don't doubt this guy fits the bill. He fits the bill. After I read through all of this and saw how he was treating her, there was some inadequacies, should I say, some shortcomings that he just could not overcome. He was extraordinarily upset over the fact that Danley's ex-husband was still around. You got to be able to handle that, bro. You got to be able to handle that. A little secret, just to not be outdone, just a little help in this whole situation. You got to understand, the first time you meet a person is this, particularly someone that you're interested in, man or woman. They're a virgin to your eyes. Really. In your mind, you should be so arrogant to believe, and you really should believe this, that their life didn't start until they met you. Why would you believe anything else? Hey, baby, God sent me to you. And God sent you to me. Whatever else happened to get you here, I appreciate it. I appreciate it, bro. I am so glad you went through whatever you went through to finally get to me. What a hard, hard road, but you made it. We're here. Thank God for that. Move on. All right, folks, it's going to be an interesting morning. A lot going on. Short period of time to cover it all, I assure you. Simple question on... Look, the simple question is whether this guy's crazy. But there's another question. And that's this. Should law enforcement wait until the slide stock or the bump stock device is applied to an assault weapon to kill a bunch of y'all? I'm going to call out every chief of police. Now, they're the, gun control doesn't work. Well, let me just tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it works very, very well in the Superdome. Do you have any idea how many times people have shot guns in a police station, and that's where all the guns are? In a courthouse? I mean, that's the reason why now they start putting metal detectors. Wherever you find more guns, there's a greater possibility you're going to get shot. I'm just telling you. That's not any kind of incredible feat. Now, let's have a sensible conversation about this thing, particularly as it applies to saving lives, many lives, as a result of a machine gun, literally. We'll be back. Well, I can tell you right now, there are people who are not going to listen to that. They're not going to listen. What they're going to do is they're going to think Rip Daniels, oh yeah, he's just talking stuff. But I'm going to tell you something. Have you ever run across somebody who was more interested in your past?
Yeah.
You have?
Yeah.
Well, did you run? Did you run far away?
No, I tried to explain myself.
You tried to explain what? You tried to, oh, it's okay?
You got the story all wrong.
Yeah,
Let me show you how it really went.
Yeah, right. And there's no way you can relive all of that, and there's no way that he even wants you to. Let me tell you that right now. All right, I guess you need to get off and unplug before I say something I really shouldn't. Let the cat completely out of the bag.
What you feel like you want?
I don't know. Something juicy. Something juicy.